I think this is actually the first time that I'm streaming on my personal Facebook page. I don't think I've ever done the stream on the Facebook page, but this is nice. Actually, my profile page and YouTube at the same time. This is going to be an interesting stream because I said so. Actually, because I'm trying to do something here. I am streaming on YouTube right now, and also there is the Clubhouse, my Clubhouse, the Hangar by Kamga that I'm using to have this conversation audio. Anybody wants to join. Let's see if we can add the topics right now, which would be, I think advice sounds like it. Immigration. Why is immigration not appearing? That is interesting. Travel, maybe? That should be fun. What other topic is this about? I think it's about, I don't know. Cannot find the immigrant topic on this thing, but hey, let's do it. Well, can't find it, so. All right, let's just let that be. All right, welcome to the stream. If you're watching the replay, then thank you so much for taking time to watch it. You want to take too long and just use forever to do it. Today's topic comes from a conversation I had with a friend moments earlier. We're talking about just lives in the US and how different people have, excuse me, different people have different experiences of life in America. And I used to write a lot about being an immigrant. I think when I moved in 2018, I used to write articles every week about how what it means to be Black in America, how different it is for me to be in America. I actually got sick of it. I got sick of talking about this topic. I got sick of just sharing perspectives that I felt where everybody had talked about it at some point. I didn't feel like I was doing anything original. I didn't feel like I was adding any value to anybody's life. And so I took a step off from that particular area. It just felt redundant. It felt like you're just crying the same cry that everybody cries about how America is this, America is that, etc. And eventually I've reached a point now where I feel like the reason why I was even able to survive, first of all, were the people who were around me, my partner at the time around me, giving me their own perspective and their own advice in the context. Articles that I'd read on Medium where I was writing about this immigration process, and other people too who just shared through books. For example, Behold the Dreamers by Imbolo Mbowe, and the perspective of someone who had been in this country and gone through the difficulties and just sharing that in a fictional way. So it was great to get this perspective. And I think what I missed when I was feeling sick about writing it is that I did not understand the value of sharing my opinion, sharing my perspective, and bringing that to the table for someone else to use that and understand the context. So today I want to share 7 skills that I think everyone needs to survive in America, especially as an African. And the reason why I put the whole African there on the title and why I'm talking about it is because I think a lot of these skills, I call them skills, but they're really just mindsets and perspectives. And some of them are skills, of course. But there are things that you have to be able to just keep in mind because they change depending on the context in which you find yourself. Because if you live from a different country that has a different cultural uh, underlying cultural context, then the way you would approach America is going to be different. If you move from, I don't know, America to Cameroon, it's different. So I'm speaking from the perspective of a Cameroonian immigrant, an African immigrant who had never been to any other country and moved to this country, America, and I've been living here for 3 years. And I want to share those seven skills that I think would help you have a better life. It doesn't mean that's going to take away your experience or that you're going to suddenly feel much better about everything. No, I don't think it's going to just magically destroy all the issues that you've had. I don't think that's the case. But I'll share these 7 skills with you. Hopefully, I'll share them through 7 stories. Maybe we'll just talk directly about them, right? So, the first skill that I think is very important when you move from, say, Cameroon or Nigeria, whichever African country you are. I'm generalizing here, so please just understand. I think I wrote this in the description. This is very much context driven, right? This is very much context driven because it depends on where you're coming from, how much you know, and where you are from, and what you get into. But I think the key skill or mindset that cuts across the board is openness. Openness is a personality trait I think that people measure. Usually companies measure this trait to see if you're the kind of person who is open to new ideas, open to collaboration, etc. But what happens is when I moved, because I'd been reading a lot of things about American culture and listening to podcasts and just engaging into these ideas that were not necessarily Cameroonian ideas, this openness allowed me to be able to, even if I didn't agree with certain things and the way things were done in a different country, which I was at the time, I was able to at least leave room for the possibility that I could be wrong or the possibility to learn something that I didn't know. I think one of the big issues that many Cameroonians have is that when they move to America or they move to other countries, and I'm speaking specifically for Cameroonians because I'm Cameroonian, I'm going to stop trying to explain myself. But what happens is we want to keep the same mindset that we had. We don't want to change anything. We just want to move to the country and let the country adapt to us. And the skill that I'm talking about here, which is openness, it means you're willing to acknowledge and accept that you're no longer where you were. You're no longer in the same context. You no longer buy food the same way. You probably will not see the same kinds of foods. People will speak differently. And the biggest example that I have for this is the idea of accents. I think many people there's this conversation about, do you have to change your accent when you move to a country like, I don't know, America, whatever? Like, why do people in French or even in English say what is it, or you speak with an accent like or fake American accent that is a different accent? And I think the example of accents fall under openness because someone who is using an accent or is trying to speak in the way that Americans speak is usually met by often other Africans, other immigrants as someone who is a sellout. They're trying too hard. Who do you think you are? Why do you have to speak that way? What are you trying to prove? Whereas the idea of openness in terms of these skills that I think that are required for you to be able to adapt means that you need to be able to understand that in this context in which you find yourself, people speak differently. And they've been used to speaking that way for their whole lives. And so it's your responsibility in a way to pronounce your words in a way that they can hear. Now, does this mean that you would change and start speaking in a different way from the way you normally speak? I don't think that's the case. But what usually happens is that the more you try to speak American English the way Americans speak, the less you would sound like a Cameroonian. That's just what I think. I'm sure there's research to back this up and everything else. But think about it this way. Kids who are born in America tend to speak like, I don't know, Americans. Why? Because they're in America. So not to belabor the point on openness, I think that is a skill that as an immigrant, you need to be able to accept that things are no longer the way they were. You're no longer where you were. So you have to be open to ideas, to cultures, to different things that are different from what you knew. Not just, it doesn't mean that you have to embrace everything. Let me try to clarify. It doesn't mean that you have to suddenly now start liking everything that everybody's saying or agreeing with all the points that I said because you're in a different country. No, but I think being open to some ideas that you may not have met in your country of origin, it's important. That is a skill that I think is top on this list. Openness. Openness is the first one, being able to adapt and realize that you don't know everything about everything, and that's fine. So that's the first one. The second skill that I think, let me see here. The second skill that I think is important is something that you will find, and I think many Cameroonians already do this very well. Many Africans do this well. It's community building. I think it's very important to be able to have a community wherever you find yourself. And I put this one point there because I was thinking of either community building or joining a community, and it rolls off from openness. When you're open to meeting new people, open to new cultures, then you're much more open as well to going out there using platforms like, well, pre-COVID, platforms like a Meetup, where you can find like, oh, are there people around me who are into books, into carpentry, into gardening, software development, and then going to meetups and meeting people and joining a community or building a community. And the reason why I think this is important, there's another point that will follow up eventually. The reason why I think community building is important is like life in America can be very difficult when when you don't have people around you who can either provide you with feedback or just support you as you're figuring things out. It's very difficult. I think those first 90 days on average are so hard that some people usually want to just go back. I know that I wanted to go back at some point. Multiple times I thought, oh, this was not a good idea. I don't feel at home here. I've left my family. I don't know the people that I don't know people. I don't know how to read people. And one of the biggest things that I think I talked about this at one point in the room in Clubhouse, it was the fact that in Cameroon, when you speak with people, you sort of know you have this bank of non-verbal information that when you're talking with somebody and they agree with you, you can feel that they agree with you. You can sense these things. It's a way that people speak. There are certain colloquialisms. There's a mannerism that Cameroonians have. We have our own lingo, our own language that when you're telling a story, somebody doesn't need to tell you, oh, I totally understand what you're saying, or I totally agree with you. Just the way they nod their heads or things like, oh, mama mia. Like we have a way of speaking that allows us to be able to understand ourselves. And when you move, you lose a lot of that. And it can get very scary when you're not sure if the person you're talking with, understands you, if they agree with you, if they're just waiting for you to make a mistake. It can be very difficult, which is why I think the second skill that is really important is community building. Being able to either build a community or join a community. And I think it stems from that openness and willingness to go out there and find people who may be in areas that you're interested in. Finding that point to just start building a community, friendships, people, whether it's church, whether it's libraries, whether it's school. I think it's important as an immigrant, especially in America, to be a part of a community. You can't survive by yourself, whether it's, ex-student community, whether it's church community, whether it's neighborhood watch, whatever it is, being able to be a part of a group in some level is very important. And it's a skill that I think should be cultivated by more Cameroonians, because when we stay by ourselves, we'll get the same ideas, we'll get the same things that people have been telling us all the time. So we don't even find a way to grow or teach each other new things. But my experience has been that when you join a group, different people from different contexts and different cultures, what happens is you have people who are able to share with you things that you may never thought about. So you see that the openness aspect of it that we talked about earlier comes into play because you're now able to get ideas and just learn that you're not as smart as you think that you were. You don't know everything, and that's fine. So that's number two. That's community building. The third one, I think, is one of the most important ones. I think all of them are important, but I think this one cuts across whether you're an immigrant or not, whether you've been in America for 2 years or 10 years. Financial education. I don't know if this counts as a skill, but it came to my mind because I realized that because the cultures and the contexts are so different, you have people who have moved here and they find out about credit. The first they find out about credit is that very first time that they're seeing it. And they don't know what it's all about. They don't know what it's like to get a student loan, to build credit cards, all those things. And it's very scary because you hear about these things on the news. You hear about, oh yeah, you should not go to school because you're going to get a lot of debt and then you'll never pay that debt and you'll be broke for the rest of your life. And so if you don't have that financial education skill of knowing, okay, this is what it means to build credit. This is what credit is used for. This is what a loan looks like. This is how I can make the way for myself to be able to buy a house eventually if I want to do that. This is where I can get scholarships for my education or stipend so that I don't have to pay from out of pocket to do certain things. Financial education is very important, especially in America, because the way the financial system is set up, many Americans, or at least those that I come across on the internet, complain about the fact that there's not enough financial education for kids done in school and colleges. And so what has helped me so far is courses. I've taken a bunch of courses and learned from people who are teaching on Instagram and YouTube. And it took me a while to start understanding it. But once I did, it made so much sense. And I see myself now willing to learn more and invest more and learn about stocks and trading and Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and NFTs, and just this mindset of, oh wow, you can build wealth using things like, I don't know, insurance, for example. These are things that I didn't know. And I think many people who come to America don't have to know these things before they move there, because these are not things that we talk about in Cameroon. These are not things that we're used to. But it's important to know these things when you're in a place like America, because it could literally affect the way that you live, affect where you live, how you live, and it can ripple down into your generation, to your kids, into your family back home, because you're in a place where most people have the assumption that because you're in America, you will suddenly do well. But sometimes you don't do well because you didn't have the right information. That's why I think the third and really important skill to have is that financial educational piece. The fourth skill, I think this one should actually be the first. It cuts across all the board. It cuts across life in America. It cuts across relationships, health. It's learning how to learn. There is a course on Coursera, which is actually a free platform, where you can take a course on learning how to learn. It's basically a course that teaches you how to learn. And I know Vanessa Ebasone always talks about this particular course and how important it is to be able to learn, because a lot of the things that I'm doing now on a day-to-day basis, a lot of things that I work on are things that I was curious about, and I took a course and I figured it out. Or I got myself into a YouTube rabbit hole, and before I realized it, I was learning all these things. For example, I found out very recently about a medical condition that I had. I was like, oh wow, I didn't even know about this thing. I had to go and figure out how to learn, how to pick up all these things, and then just get better at learning. Learning how to learn is the fourth skill on this my list. And I think it cuts across the board, but especially for immigrants, is because since you're new to the country and you're new to the environment, you have to be able to pick up things really fast. You have to be able to pick up cultures and maybe even languages. For example, Spanish is a very widely spoken language in the US. And fortunately, I don't speak Spanish, but I think there are people who have been able to get jobs because they were bilingual or even trilingual, and because they were able to learn the language fast enough to be able to use that in their jobs or leverage it in their CVs. And not just for the jobs, but think about the fact that you move and maybe you don't yet have the qualifications required to be able to do a particular job. You being able to pick up any job and learn very fast how to talk to people, how to do inventory, how to speak to your manager, how to do an interview. So learning how to learn, as much as I put it this list here for people skills to learn as an immigrant, I think it cuts across the board for life. It's like a life skill. Because what this means is, whenever you find a topic that you're interested in, you go into a rabbit hole, and once you have the skill to be able to pick up the necessary, just those nuggets that are important enough for you to move on with life, then you pick it up. So I think on this list, learning how to learn is the most important. Yeah, because everything else is about learning those other things. So yeah, we've talked so far about 4 skills. Let me just recap them for a little bit for anybody who's watching either right here or the replay. The first one was openness, the ability to be able to accept that you're in a different culture and that requires different skill sets and different ways of thinking. Second one was community building, whether it's joining a community or building a community, whether it's church community, work community, library, whatever it is, it's important to be able to be a part of a group, even if it's a small group of people who are skilled in a specific skill, or a large group of people like, Cameroonian immigrants or ex-students or college friends. Being a part of a community can be very important in your adaptation to the country, and that's how you can get information about even, your next job or your next partner who might eventually become your spouse. So I think it's important. Third one is financial education. When people hear about America, they think of loans, think of student loans, think of credit card and debt and all these terrible things that people are afraid of. And I think having this financial education can help you learn how to plan your life better, plan your future better as you're moving and progressing and getting all these skills as an immigrant in America. Last one that we talked about just now was how to learn, because all these things are still skills that you have to learn. You can find yourself in a new job and you have to pick up the new lingo. So when you're able to learn, you're able to pick up those things a little bit faster. Now we'll move on to the fifth one, which I think I had a difficulty actually labeling this one. It was research, asking questions, which is reaching out. And this one is I'm actually a little bit embarrassed about this one, because I think it's a very, very typical Cameroonian thing because of the way we are raised. And this is just for myself. Anybody who is Cameroonian can speak for themselves. We don't tend to ask questions a lot. I think it's because we are raised in an environment where asking questions is seen as rude. When an adult tells you to do something, the first thing, and you a question is like, okay, why should I do this? It's like, you're such a terrible child. You're poorly raised. How did your mom raise you? So I think we grew up in an environment where questioning things is bad. asking questions is bad. Just trying to find out more is not seen as a good trait. And it's something that I've had to unlearn and to relearn, because at my current job, for example, you are encouraged actually to ask questions where you don't understand things. You're encouraged to reach out to people who can help you. I think it's such an American thing that people are open to sharing information, especially key information, because you can pick up your phone. It's something that I never understood it until now. I realized that it's almost inbuilt in the American fabric. You can pick up your phone and call nearly any office and ask about anything, and somebody will be there to answer you politely. We are not we in Cameroon. I don't know about other countries, but we have such terrible customer service on average. I'm sure there are good people somewhere, but I've never had the experience of having good customer service. We have such terrible customer service that for you to pick up the phone and talk to somebody and find out information is the strangest thing. You don't expect somebody to actually be nice. But what I found out, and the fifth skill that I think is very important as an immigrant, is to be able to ask questions. And I don't even know how to begin to learn how to do this, because it takes a lot of rewiring and rethinking about the way things used to be back home, and realizing that you're not in the same position anymore. So you don't have to feel afraid. Somebody's not going to insult you or think that you're rude because you're asking a question about, hey, which document do I need to submit for this application? Where do I need to file this, I don't know, tax information? How do I get this thing? Where is Walmart, for example? So that's the fifth skill, being able to research and ask questions and just talk to people that you don't know to get information that you need. Now, the sixth one, I think it's like an umbrella skill. And as I was writing this, I was thinking about where to put this. And I think it's lower there because it's something we don't really think about until when it's too late. And the skill I'm talking about is self-care. I know too many immigrants who work themselves to the bones because they're in America and now they have the opportunity to work, and then they're just killing themselves because, in America, you have to work. You have to prove a point. You have to send money back home. You have to maintain an image. And I think people burn at their life candles on both ends because they don't take into consideration the fact that, you live once, and if you don't take care of yourself, you will pay the price eventually, whether it's in health or damaged relationships, or just you're not a machine. You have to be able to care for yourself. And I'll put a huge caveat here that it's very context driven. There are people who need to work hard because they know that they're not putting in enough energy. And there are people who need to work less hard and actually take more time to care for themselves and indulge in rest and actually be like, all right, this is rest. This is something that has to be done. So yeah, that is hey BK, hello. Your suggestion. Sorry. I'll come back to the comments when I'm done with this list so we can talk about it. Hey, feel free to put in any questions there. I'll be able to let you know what's up. All right. So I was talking about self-care, mental health, and rest. There is this content creator. I think calling him a content creator is almost insulting, but Josh Terry talks a lot about restraints and constraints as a creative and being able to stop and rest so they can create tomorrow at, more, if not at the same level as you were the previous day. And I think it's important as you're hustling, as you are, as you're making, oh sweet, I like the lizards coming. I'm going to read all of them, BK. All right, don't worry. So as you're getting better at learning at these things and preparing, is you have to be able to take care of yourself. It's very paramount because there's this lifestyle that is encouraged, at least in the media, of hustle culture, which people misunderstand for meaning that you burn yourself to the bones, whereas it could simply mean that you should work hard on the things that you already enjoy so that you can use them as leverage to get the life that you want. So self-care is important. It's very important to be able to know when it's time to take a break, when it's time to stop Netflix and chill and actually go sleep. Because I don't believe that relaxation has to mean indulging in consumption that is meaningless and mindless. I think relaxation has to do with actual relaxation that could lead to clarity and rest. Whether it's taking a hike, whether it's doing a dance class, whether it's walking, whether it's drinking water. But I think the most important one is actually a simple one, which is sleep, just sleeping. So the skill to be able to stop the hustle, stop the wheel, and go to bed early. It's important to have that skill as an immigrant because you can easily get carried away by all the opportunities and all the ability. I mean, it's happened to me 1,000 times, okay, maybe less. But to be able to just take a break, bro. Just take a break and yeah. Hey BC, I see you in the audience here on Clubhouse. If you want to join, feel free to put your hand up. I'm almost at the last list here. Hi, Alliance. Welcome to the Clubhouse. This is Kamga speaking. I don't know if you can hear me. Let me know. But yeah, so I was doing it right now. I'm talking about 7 skills to survive in America as an immigrant, and I'm around the 6th skill right now. So I should be done very soon. I can take questions, or anybody who wants to join and have a chat and talk about your own experience or ask any questions. I'm more than happy to, listen to you. So yeah, last one is non-conformity. Non-conformity, I put in brackets here, being able to find your own path. And I think this one is very critical. I think all of them are critical, but here's why this one is critical, because I think when you move, depending on how you might move for a fiance visa, marriage, school, family. There are many reasons why people move to other countries, including America. And depending on how you move, people might find the need to tell you how you should live your life, which path you should follow. And BK has some really awesome comments here on YouTube I'm going to be reading in a bit. How to what should you study? You should do CNA because CNA is this. You should go to this particular journey and you follow this particular path. So many people, in good faith, usually it's because that is what has worked for them. They will tell you what you should study, which school you should go to, which path you should take. And the skill of nonconformity, I think, is different from being rude or being a black sheep or being stubborn. The skill of nonconformity is about knowing when what people are saying is true but doesn't necessarily apply to you. And I think it's a subtle difference between what everyone is saying that you should do and what you know that you should do because you've understood yourself. So it requires some level of self-awareness, some level of grit, some level of being able to say, all right, mom, I know what you're saying. I understand where you're coming from. This has been your experience in America, but this is the path that I want to take. This is the journey that I want to go to. And it's going to be different. And usually they will not agree with you. So you also have to learn how to communicate why you're taking your path and be willing to bet on yourself. I could go a whole other rant about this particular task, but the summary I'll say is this: not every path works the same for everybody who's an immigrant. Some people come to America or move to other country and they struggle for a long time before finding their path. Other people show up and then their parents tell them what to do and they do it and it works really well. So you need to understand your context and also know where you're coming from, what is at stake, because some people sacrifice a lot to get here. Families put in money, moms go to Njangi houses and borrow for you to travel, and then you show up and you're like, all right, I want to, I don't know, do drugs or something. And that's not very nice. It's not very nice to be able to just throw away your parents' dreams and aspirations because you're suddenly aware of what you need to do with your life. So there's some level of maturity and responsibility required, knowing that there's a risk in taking your path, but because you've done your research, because you've actually read through things and you've studied and you've talked to people who are living the life that you may want to live, now you're able to look at things differently. So yeah, those are the 7 skills that I had. And I'm going to go ahead and go recap the last tweet that I just read now, and then also go through the comments that BK left on YouTube. So BC, thank you for listening here in Clubhouse. If anybody is watching and wants to be able to join, there's going to be a link in the description there that you can join in and chat with me. If you want to talk, you can raise your hand. I'll bring you up on the stage. If not, you just want to listen, that's fine too. I don't mind at all. So last week we talked about there's research, asking questions. That's a skill that I think is very important, being able to reach out to people, offices, just talk and ask people like, hey, what do I need to be able to apply to your school to study, I don't know, microbiology? What are the requirements? And, maybe for a job, you see on job application, you can reach out to the recruiter and say, hey, what do I need to get the CV that is required? So basically, what I'm trying to say is being able to ask questions, being able to reach out to people, do your own research through YouTube, taking courses. Because you live in a country now that has access to the internet, you can almost always find that information with just a few clicks away. Next is self-care. As you're hustling and building and preparing for your family and trying to save money, and you're doing all these things, you need to be able to care for yourself, whether this means more sleep, more exercise, healthier eating, drinking water. Self-care is an important part of this process as you adapt to a new country. You need to be able to maintain the body and the mind that will keep you going for a long time. And the last one was non-conformity, being able to choose your path, being able to go in a direction that maybe people in your family have not yet gone in that direction. But because you've done your research, because you've studied the path, because you've been able to figure out, okay, I may not want to become a CNA. And I use the example of a CNA because the majority of immigrants tend to become CNAs. And I know people who use that as a stepping stone. But what I've noticed is people become CNAs and then they never move past it. It just becomes their life career. And I don't think it's a bad thing. Let me clarify. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it gets limiting when people don't realize that they can have the opportunity to do more, but they stay in a stage because it's comfortable, because they've made bad choices. Maybe you get your first job as a CNA, and then instead of saving that money or studying when you're not working, you use other money, or you get a credit card and then you're stuck having to do the same job just because you have credit card debt that you have to pay, which goes to the third one that we shared about, which is financial education. Because if you understand how credit cards work, then you know sometimes when not to take them, how to pay them off, what to do, and how to just get better. So those are the 7 top skills. I mean, I put top there, but it's really just skills, I think. And yeah, BK, let's go ahead and read your suggestions while we're here. So BK says, hi, my suggestion. Hi to you too, my friend. So learn what is culturally wrong, saying and dressing, better your English pronunciation, why. So the first one is learn what is culturally wrong, saying and dressing. So if I want to understand what you're saying here, let me try to understand in my context. It's being able to understand the context, the culture. You're in a different culture, you're in a different place. So you need to learn what is culturally wrong, what is acceptable, what is not acceptable. Because when you come from a different place, you may not have the same understanding. For example, there are jokes that I can make with a Cameroonian that the Cameroonian will find very funny. But if I make those jokes to an American, it's not going to be funny at all. In fact, I might get locked up for making those jokes in some cases. I'm just saying. So if BK, I don't know if I understand what you're saying very clearly, but that's what it means, learning what is culturally wrong, how to dress the part. Because, for example, if you're going for an interview, there's, even now that we're doing Zoom interviews, I work from home now, and there's a way that you dress that is appropriate for the context. I think in different cultures, it's different. Some people will require you to cover your whole body. I know people wear hijab in different cultures. So if you're in America, you need to know, okay, what is the acceptable, the cultural norm to look the part, to dress the part. So I think that is very valuable, BK. Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, the second one is better your English pronunciation. Yes, I think that is key, because you'll be speaking with Americans, you'll be talking with these people. Oh, I see you raised your hand here. What just happened? I think, see, Clubhouse is acting weird. Let me, BC, I think you raised your hand because you're the only one in the room. So I'm going to just invite you up here. Can I invite to speak? Yes, I can invite to speak. So I think you raised your hand, and then it's showing me that there's a hand raised on Clubhouse, but I can't see the thing. Oh, okay. All right. No worries. So yeah, it's what was what thing? Oh, by the way, actually, BC, you can leave a message. I think you can send a message here if you want to share a message in the Clubhouse. Now allows you to send messages. So feel free to type anything you want to add if you want to share something. But yeah, BK, you're saying better your English. Yes, 100%. And I think one of the ways that you can improve your English, just going there on a side note, is watching movies and podcasts and listening to radio. And I would not say watching the news, but watching TV can help you really understand the context and the culture and the pronunciation. And honestly, it's not about changing your accent. I remember starting this conversation talk about the whole accent thing. It's about being able to pronounce your words in a way that people can hear you. For example, whenever I get to an office in this country, whatever it is, wherever it is, whenever my name comes into the conversation, I know that I will have to explain, oh yeah, by the way, this is my name, and this is the spelling, and this is French, and this is this. So it's become like part of my, it's just part of the conversation. Whenever I'm going to go somewhere that will require my names to come out, then I'll have to tell the story. Oh yeah, so this is why this is this way. This is this. And I used to feel bad about it until I realized, it's America. I don't expect people to be able to know how my name is pronounced. It's my responsibility to tell them how it's pronounced. Now, I would not accept bad pronunciation. I would understand that it's difficult because it's not American. So I'm just adding things on your point there, BK, about, speaking better English. Yes, I think it's important to be able to speak English and to be able to speak it properly, because it's a language that people speak here. So if you want to be understood, if you want to do business, if you want to do things, get things sorted out, then it's up to you to do your best to learn how to do that. So yeah. And the next comment is, if you have a high school diploma, get any medical certification course or Google certificate. It's easier and shorter time to certify. Yes, I would even add that to what I'm doing right now. I work right now as a Salesforce administrator, and the Salesforce admin certification is like $200. That is, I think it's like probably what, 98% cheaper than most college education, college degrees, and you don't even need to sit in any class to do it. You can take the exam online by yourself, basically. So yeah, 100% BK. I think we live in a world now, especially in America, I don't know about other countries, where you're able to land a high paying job, have a valuable skill without necessarily going to college. Again, this is context dependent. Some people need to go to college. They need the validation of that document that shows that you finished in Harvard or you finished in, I don't know, whatever school it is that you would like to finish. Some people, like there's some parents who will not allow their child to do that because, hey, my child has to go to college. I went to college. I'm a PhD. They have to do it this way. Now, I sympathize with you if you're one of those children or come from one of those families where people don't understand you. And the thing that I would say is this: people start to understand you when you show results. That's really all I can say. So you might have to go through a period where you don't feel understood. You don't feel like people get what you're saying. You don't feel like they understand anything they are talking about. And I want to say it's okay because it sucks. It sucks terribly when you're trying to explain to people, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'm trying to build websites. I'm trying to learn web design. I want to become a graphic designer. I want to become a social media manager. Some people might understand now because of the rise of TikTok and all these platforms and everything else that is making it easier for people to know that you can have and make money using these platforms. 100%. But that struggle can be hard. It can be difficult to deal with that. And I empathize with you for it. I think it sucks. But if you're able to take that path and stick to it and learn and adapt, not only would you become a great communicator because you would have to learn how to communicate your ideas to your parents who are disagreeing with you, but you also pick up a bunch of skills that I think will be valuable in the long term. So I hope you stay the course. I hope you figure out what you want to do. And yeah, I wish you the best. So yeah, I think my rant is done. Don't really rant, but yeah, this is what I wanted to share today. I was thinking about this afternoon, and I decided to just come up here, share a little bit, and go ahead and have my life. So BK, I don't know if you're still watching. BC, I don't know if you have any questions, but feel free to leave a message, to reach out, to say anything that could help, and we'll see how things go. All right. So oh yeah, the replays are on, by the way. The replays are on. The club on Clubhouse is called the Hangar, calling it the Hangar because that's where you keep planes to take off by Kamga. So you can find the club, you can join in there, have the conversation if you want. I don't know how frequent this conversation is going to be honest. But I think I'll be coming up with topics and sharing them here and just seeing what happens. Yeah, see what happens. It's 3 o'clock, almost 3:36 here in Pueblo, Colorado. And I'll be ending this stream in 3 minutes just so they can be a round figure because I like round figures like that. But yeah, it's fun stuff. I think moving to America can be very challenging. And I started this conversation by talking about how I felt sick writing about being an immigrant and my experience as an immigrant and life in America, this ABC, XY. At some point, it just gets really boring. But then I realized that it's because other people share their boring stories, quote unquote, that I was able to learn and grow and make my own mistakes instead of making mistakes that everybody else did. So to recap, first skill, openness. Be able to realize that you're not in the same country that you were before. You're not living with the same people. The culture is different. You have to be open to new ideas, open to new learnings, open to making mistakes, and that humility of realizing that I don't know everything. I don't know what's going on here. I might need help. Second skill, community building. Either joining a community or building a community. We need now more than ever people who are willing to be community builders, whether it's friendships, whether it's library, book clubs. You need to be able to join a community or be a part of a community. You don't have to be a leader and create one. You can also be a follower and be a helpful member of the community. So all communities need both groups of people. You can't have leaders without followers, and you can't have followers without leaders. So yeah. Third one is financial education. This one can take a whole rant on its own, but you need to be able to understand the credit system, understand loans, student loans, mortgage, and all those things that are required. Not really required, but that you will come across as you make different decisions in life. Some people live their whole lives without taking any credit, and they still do it well. So hey, just learn about it. It doesn't kill for you to know. Fourth is how to learn. This skill cuts across not just being an immigrant, but just generally in life. If you know how to learn, it means that you can learn anything. You can adapt very fast. You can you're nimble, you're fluid, you can move in life, you can learn about relationships, you can learn about your new job, learn about skills, learn about things, taxes and stuff like that. Number 5 is research, asking questions. As Cameroonians, we tend to see questioning people as rude and irregular in our culture. But in America, it's actually encouraged for people to ask questions. People want to tell you information that you need. And there's many situations where I've called an office and I had questions, rescheduled meetings, and asked, hey, where is this office? What do I need to bring? What do I need for this? And people tell you without you having to bribe anybody, which is very different from the context that we have in Cameroon. Self-care. Take care of yourself. Take care of yourself as you hustle and you're in America and you're working 40 hours a week. Take care of yourself. Sleep, drink water, dance, do something that helps your mind and your body and your spirit, self-care. And the final one is non-conformity. Be able to take a path that is different. These are things that I wish I knew 3 years ago because my life would have been so different. But yeah, now that I know better, I can learn more upon that. So thank you so much for hanging out, BC and BK. I appreciate you being here. I don't know if it's the same person who was both on YouTube and on Clubhouse. But yeah, it's nice to have you guys here listening. Let me know in the comment section, or you can send me a message on Clubhouse, Instagram. The name is the same, Kamga, so you can always find me any of those places. So thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next stream. You take care.